is a heavy and vulnerable conversation to have. This platform is a safe place for all individuals to come share their life's journeys of surviving grief without judgment.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the QT Surviving Grief podcast. My name is Tiffany Ware, and I am the podcast host. And I am here today with a lovely lady. I think I met this lady when I was a little girl. My mom worked at I think Central together, and they worked in family resource, I believe. And she has just been a super joy to just be around. I consider her my life coach. I always have. A career coach, just coach on everything, honestly. So I would like to introduce to some and present to others Miss Georgena Porter Wilson. Hi, Miss Georgie.
Good morning. Good morning. I thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me. Of course, life is life and all the time, but I am Georgena Porter Wilson, and I am currently a resident, of course, of Maury County, born and raised here. I am here today just serving on the panel with Tiffany, just to give you some background as a therapist, as a counselor. And so what I have done over the probably last 6 years, I developed a curriculum on grief, and it was just a support group, not so much counseling, but that was just to provide an outlet for individuals who are struggling with grief and who need just to know that they're not alone. And so today, that's why I'm here, just to share with Tiffany, answer some questions, and hopefully be a resource to our community. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Miss. And I call her Miss Georgie. I think Quinn probably started that a long time ago. So if that's okay.
Yes,
I'm gonna call you Miss Georgie throughout our little time together
absolutely.
today.
That's who I am.
Yes, yes. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So I always start off every session, Miss Georgie, with just a quick icebreaker. And usually it's something fun,
Okay.
but I actually this time around I thought we're in the new year and I wanted to know, and we'll revisit this toward the end, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Self-care. Self-care is one of the things, it's the tip for life, period. Because you realize on this journey called life, we give, give, give. We find ourselves losing who we are as a result of life. That could be just our daily work schedules, family obligations, church obligations, community obligations. And so self-care at the top of the list, because I have learned over the years that you can't give and you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give something that you don't have. And so self-care every day, and especially when you're starting a new year, during the new year, we want to do New Year's resolutions, have those goals. But I encourage people to have daily goals. And then from that daily goal, you can build weekly goals. And from those weekly goals, of course, you can come up with monthly goals. Each month then will turn into a yearly goal. So self-care is number one.
Awesome. I like that answer. And I like how it's like gradual. Like you don't have to just start with this big plan for the month. Like just start by the day, then by the week. I
Yes,
like that.
moment,
I think that's
really.
good practice. Yeah, I really like that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for the icebreaker. So next we're just gonna get into who is Georgena Porter Wilson. You mentioned a little bit about your background, but yeah, just tell the people a little bit about you, your credentials, and also what inspired or made you want to get into the social services or mental health field.
Okay, so just a little bit about who I am and how I arrived at this stage in life. You mentioned earlier about the journey at Columbia Central High School. Yes, I got to work with some fantastic people, Janet Ware being one. So she's my sister now, she's my diva sister. And so I worked actually in the guidance office, and they worked in the family resource office. And so we made that connection. Of course, was the registrar in the guidance office. Is kind of like one of those positions where I did all the records, but then anything else that was assigned to me. And during that journey, of course, I wasn't a guidance counselor, but students would tend to come to me for advice, and I kept getting in trouble for it. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go back to school, but I didn't at that time, I didn't think about going back to school to be a guidance counselor. I just wanted to be a counselor for our community. And
Mm.
so it was through other, relationships, friendships. So Sheila Taylor and Charlene Brooks, all of us, decided we're going to be our own cohort. And so we went back to
Yeah.
school together. Like, oh my God, families. So I am a wife of, oh my God, 24 years, been married to my husband. I'm a mother of 2 wonderful children. I have 5 grandchildren. So it has been a journey watching all of this unfold before me. But to be transparent, life hurts. Life hurts. Things over the years that had brought me to the point where I needed to understand that it's okay to talk to somebody about some things, some trauma, some things that happened to you in your life. And many people, always looked at me as like, oh, that's, my nickname is Cookie. That's Cookie. She's the youngest.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest
Yeah.
of 4. And so my father died, passed away when I was 6 years old, and my mom never remarried until I was a junior in college. And so I was the first one to go to college. And so my brother was kind of like the male role model in my life. And so everyone, he's 7 years, my other sister's 10 years, my other sister's 14 years. That's the age difference between all of
Wow.
us. So it's like, yeah, most people, I say most people don't realize it.
Yeah.
They think I'm older than my sister
Uh-huh.
Gwen, who's 10 years older than me. But no, I'm the baby. And so through all of the things that, you experience. And so I grew up in a household of a single parent, but really she wasn't a single parent. I just as a point of losing my father. And so I've always been around strong women. I didn't have any point of reference of really marriages, leaving my aunt, she was a strong woman. My grandmother was a strong woman. And then, all these people. So I found myself, mid 30s or whatever it was at the time, trying to figure out what is my life purpose. And so some of the things with abuse, just, I wasn't like, with my mom, it wasn't like a physical abuse. Of course, it really was. But in today's times,
Right.
it
Right.
would be considered that. But
Right.
it was like a struggle with yourself, trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand where am I, who am I, and what is my purpose. And so that's where the counseling came in. I realized watching people, sexual abuse, those things, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
gut wrenching, you know what I'm saying? And some
Yeah. Oh
things
yeah.
like you never talk about. And so you just kind of tuck them away and you just
Mm-hmm.
live life. And so that's how I
Yeah.
got into counseling. And like I said, I want to be a resource to others to help. I'm naturally an encourager,
Oh
but what
yeah.
most people don't
Yeah.
realize, I'm really an introvert. I have such an extrovert exterior, but I
Mm-hmm.
really like to retreat to myself, look at, read a good book or a good movie. I'm not really just a TV watcher. For a long time, you remember your parents had
Yeah.
to check on me and tell me what was going on with the news because why?
Right. Right.
Georgena
Right.
didn't cut on the TV.
Yeah. Don't watch the
So
news.
those are things people don't those are things people don't realize. But I got here because like I said, I want to be a resource, a support to others because life is serious
Mm-hmm. Oh
and
yeah. Oh
grief
yeah.
comes in many different, fashions. We think about death of people we love, but
Mm-hmm.
loss in jobs, loss of home,
Yeah.
material
Oh
things,
yeah.
those are all things that we find ourselves grieving over. And I wanted people to understand that even with relationships, our
Mm-hmm.
expectations for someone else may not be the expectations that person has for themselves or in life.
It's
If we
true.
can finally find hope.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, meet people where they are. So in turn, and
Yeah.
later they can meet us where we are. So I got here
Yeah.
because life, you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
endured a lot of death over the course of my lifetime. I have endured a lot of rough spots where,
Mm-hmm.
is it my decision or is it the decision of someone else? And I am at the recipient. I'm the recipient of whatever it is that's happened. So why
Yeah.
I'm here, like I said, it's just I wanted to be a support, give someone an opportunity to be comfortable in their own
Mm-hmm.
skin and
Right.
understand that life is all about what we make it. And every action starts with a thought.
Yeah, I like that, Miss Georgie. And it's actually a good segue into our next discussion. In thinking about, you
Okay.
mentioned the grief of losing your father so young. Is that the first time you remember experiencing loss and grief? Was it at that time?
Absolutely. Hmm. Yes.
Um,
And it's
Gotcha.
vivid.
Yeah.
It's a vivid
Okay.
memory.
Yeah, feel free to share. Because I did not realize that. I didn't know. Your father
Hmm.
died so young as a child. So, do you want to
Hmm.
share anything about that with the audience and just
Oh,
how what that
absolutely.
experience was like?
Absolutely. So for me, it was a matter of survival. You know,
Okay.
we were initially living in Hampshire, and
Okay.
he lost his sight. It started going out. There was a series of things. He was a school bus driver, so everyone loved my
Okay.
father. They, would ride his bus and all that. So everyone has all these grand memories of my father, right?
Right.
And what plays back in my mind is me taking him by his hand. He had a, walking cane, and we would go around. And also, he had renal failure. So he
Oh,
passed away at
gotcha.
age 50. So that I'll go on to tell you about that as we progress.
Yeah.
So we will, take me by my hand. We will walk around the house. We moved to Southside to public housing. So you can
Okay.
imagine going from little country people to having to
Right.
now move into public housing, where then it was the, survival of the fittest. It wasn't like, oh, we got this nice little neighborhood. It's a nice little neighborhood today, but that was
Yeah.
not the case when we moved in the late 70s. So that
Mm-hmm.
was a shock, number one,
Yeah.
and kind of denial that I'm in this position. So that was kind of a grief start for me, number one, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kindergarten. I didn't go to any like pre-K, anything like that. I hung out
Okay.
with my mom and my dad until he passed away. Then I go to school. Of course, my mom ran the dialysis machine back then in our apartment there. And so, having all this medical equipment, coming in
Mm-hmm.
constantly, it was just like I look back now thinking, man, how did she do that? And how did we, survive?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that to me, I felt robbed because my siblings, like I told you, the age difference between us, they can remember,
Mm-hmm.
going on like church trips, and my dad would drive the bus for the church and spending time, like, he was a farmer. He had all these multiple things that he would do, but he was
Yeah.
so he was like the male role model for his family, like my cousins, all of us, and we were so
Okay.
close. At one point, all of us, I guess, lived in the house together. Well, it wasn't me because I wasn't born, but they did. And so,
Yeah.
family is a big part of who I am, and I believe in helping
Mhm.
others because that's what he did. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that whole grief process for me, I didn't even realize, I didn't know what it was like to be in a family, a two-parent household. And so that loss, I thought it was just what it was. You know what I'm saying? You
Mhm,
live, you die, and you have to figure
mhm.
out how to make it, beyond that point. And so for me, it was just different. Like you would
Yeah,
go to school and you did, my mom, she told us what we had to do. We did what we had, but
yeah.
at the same time, who am I? I don't know what it looks
Right.
like to be in a home with two parents. And
Yeah.
I remember my husband now, his family. That was my point of reference of a husband and a
Mhm.
wife. And I would go hang
Okay.
out way before there was us at their house
Mhm.
because his sister and I were best friends. And he was, a fisherman, a hunter. He provided for his family. So that was my role model in my mind outside of my brother of trying to
Mhm.
provide for your family. And he was an older gentleman. So it would just be, I would sit on the porch and watch him do all these things. But I now know I was looking
Yeah.
for that father figure in him,
Mhm.
not realizing what I was doing at the time. So that was a void in my life that has always been a challenge for me, because now, even after being married, 24 years, everything, it was just different. I did everything backwards. I went to college because I was determined to do that. But the part for me that was so difficult is realizing it is important to
Mhm.
have a male figure, positive male figure in your life,
Mhm.
so that you're not reaching out struggling, trying to figure out, the expectation. So for you, Tiffany, you are truly, truly blessed because
Oh
you
yeah,
haven't been able to see your
definitely.
father, but not just your father, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Positive
yeah,
role models. And I
yeah.
understand, a challenge because here's the expectation. I've been, treated as a queen for years.
Right.
However, how do you transcend that? I'm not going to, I can't lower my expectations, my
Oh
standards
no.
because this is what I
Mhm.
know. And so for me, I didn't have, like I said, it was just a void. I felt robbed
Mhm.
because I was
Yeah.
6 years old without a father. But everyone has all these great things to say about him. You're a lot like your dad
Mhm.
because you talk a lot or whatever. Because my mom is quiet, sweet as
Yeah.
can be, but not outspoken by any means. And then my
Mhm.
other sisters,
Mhm.
they both are quiet. Then my brother and I, we probably talk more, and I probably talk more than he does. So it's
Mhm.
like, who am I really? I look like my mama, but they say I act
Yeah.
like my daddy, but I don't have a point of reference.
That's a
So
good
that was
point
a
though. When
void. I feel like I felt
yeah.
robbed.
When you that's traumatic. Um and and like you said, back then it wasn't, nobody was going to therapy to help a child process what that looks like. You go
No.
from two parents to one, and then you shift
Mhm.
from, and I know how it is out in the out in the country, just the freedom of the land and all of that, to coming to town, which is
Mhm.
different. Then being in public housing, which is different from where you had
Mhm.
started. So all of that, I'm sure, was traumatic in a way. Um, and even though you were young, Miss Georgie, okay, is you mentioned, of course, what was your dad's name, by the way? Because I like naming people.
It's Morel Porter. Morel
Okay,
Porter.
Warrell Porter. In
Mhm.
his loss, and Jen, just some of the things you just mentioned, um, did you ever lose hope? Um, and if so, how did you overcome it? If not, what source of strength did you have, like from a child on up until now? Because I know personally of a lot of death that has occurred within your family and things like that. How
Mhm.
did or did you not maintain that hope?
I think our
Okay.
faith,
Mhm.
it was our faith. My faith, that's all I knew was this is what's funny, Tiffany. We
Uh-huh.
would get up early on a Sunday morning and be in church all day long. When I say all day long, you know how the community choir, my place, community choir, they would
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
concert somewhere, or the New Haven Echoes, or the Gospel. Honey,
Uh-huh.
there was something going on, and guess what? We are trying behind our mom to the next
Right.
service, the next service. So our faith.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
sometimes we got lucky and we could stay with my aunt
Mhm.
Willie Mae,
Mhm.
and she would allow us to stay there, and we could maybe skip one of those services before
Yeah.
going
Get
home
your
at
break.
9 or 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Get your
it was
break.
our faith. And I didn't
Okay.
know anything else other than the
Mhm.
strength that was displayed before me. Like I said, my grandmother lived out there in Gravel Hill by herself in the country,
Oh,
she
yeah. Yeah.
she would go out, she would hunt, she had a garden, oh my god, a big garden. So it was all
Mhm.
about survival. You take what you have and you get up and you make it
Yeah.
happen. Yes,
Yeah.
there's going to be some trying times in your life, but do you believe in God? So basically,
Right.
my hope was built on nothing less but Jesus' blood and his righteousness. And that's where we were. It was like
Mhm.
I didn't know any better. And so as go from being in elementary school to middle school, I mean, having to fight. I mean, you lived in Southside back then. You had to fight. I fought more boys probably than I did girls. And most people are like, what? Yeah, it happened. But
I've
you
heard the
had to
stories,
survive. You
yeah.
couldn't show any weakness. You
Right.
can show any weakness, and you had to confront things as they came upon you. And I feel
Mhm.
like that's what's missing in our society now with our youth because they're facing bullying. We were
Oh, yeah.
bullied,
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
was bullied, but you have to
Mhm.
have
Oh,
that
yeah.
same resiliency and confidence in yourself. I don't think, you know, social media, all the things that's out here now, it has removed our ability to process and think. for ourselves. Everything is thinking
Yeah.
for us. Oh my goodness, AI.
Yep.
What? You
Oh,
can't write
yeah.
a sentence? So all of these things I feel like have hurt us. But for me, it was my faith because I didn't know anything else. And it was the strength of the people who were in my life. Like I said, I had
Mhm.
my aunt, my mom, my grandmother. That was like boom. They were not
Yeah.
the only ones. I had other people in the church, other cousins, but they showed me firsthand it's okay. Yeah, it's gonna be rough. My grandmother was no nonsense. You hear me? That
Mhm.
older people, they didn't have all the
Right.
fuzzy wuzzy, hug you, kiss you, none of that. But before she left this world, I showed her, I would hug her and kiss her, and she'd be like, Get on way. But I knew because she would talk to Matilda Wyatt that she
Yeah.
was so proud of who I had become. Because when I told her I was going to go to school, she told me, no, you need to get a job. So strength, our
Mhm.
faith is how I made it to where I am. But it's only because of the role models that were before me that displayed their strength and their faith.
Yeah.
They executed. You hear me? It wasn't just
Yeah.
lip service. We walked in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
That's
how I
yeah.
got to overcome that. Because like I said, you have him, and then
Mhm.
after that, it was just kind of like a roller coaster of cousins. And I
Okay.
remember when my grandmother passed, that was the biggest for me. In 95, I was pregnant with my son. I remember being in the hospital and they said, you might need to step out if you think you're pregnant. I was like, I'm not pregnant. My mother-in-law told me, she said, girl, I believe you're pregnant. I'm like, I'm not pregnant. I was. And so that was detrimental to me because number
Yeah.
one, it didn't go in the order I thought it should go in. I'm not married at the time and I'm
Right.
resisting getting married because I'm like, oh, we don't have to get married because we have a child. Why?
Mhm.
Miss Independent, resilient, strength. Um, and I didn't even know what it would even look like to be
Right.
a wife. So
Right.
I rebelled, but she passed away in April. I think that's right. Sometimes, you put things in your mind and you block them out. And I'm going, is it April or was it March? So much has happened in those months for me that I
Mhm.
can't even, yeah. But it was
Yeah.
1995 because Juan was born in August. So I I was devastated because she was my everything. I went to live with her in high school. That's why I didn't graduate from Columbia Central. The man that lived, she had allowed to build a house at the end of her driveway. He had passed away. So that was kind of like, I call it her boyfriend. They didn't really say that. Yeah, that was her boyfriend.
Gotcha.
Anyway, he
Gotcha.
had built a house down at the end. And
Yeah.
so when he had passed away, they left her out there truly by herself. Her nephews, my cousins, they lived, would come out there, we lived with him. So they would kind of check on each other. So at that point, my brother and myself, we went out there, but then we, as our family moved, we had put a mobile home right on the opposite side of her. And so
Mhm.
that's how I ended up a graduate of Spring Hill High School and not Columbia Central. Back then, we went to ninth grade in with Thorne, and then so I was in 10th grade when I went to Spring Hill. So it was one of those, like I said, just I just can't even
Yeah.
put into words how it all came to be. But her death, it that was a whole nother level of grief. But once again, my faith
Right.
is what got me
Right.
through it.
I think that's important when we think about our foundation. In the work I do,
Mhm.
and I know you're familiar with ACEs, and when we think about, building strong brains for our kids, I mean, that foundation is everything. And I think faith is
Mhm.
just in our culture. All of us start out,
Right.
this the first thing you learn is going to church. And so I think that's a good point to just the foundational piece of all of it, for sure. For sure. Um, so with that being said, Miss Georgie, I know you are very familiar with the 5 stages of grief. Have at any
Mhm.
moment of you losing, whether it was your dad or family members, um, did you ever experience any of the stages? And if so, what did that look like for you? And then also, I want to know from a professional perspective of the people you've counseled on grief, what do you see the most? Like, is it all of the stages or just certain ones? Just want
Yeah.
to know what your thoughts on that too.
It's definitely all of the stages. However, shock. is at the
Yeah.
forefront, because if it's something sudden, shock, you can stay in shock, and through the whole service, if there is a service, until that whatever that
Yeah.
closure is for you. And then I
Yeah.
tried to tell in my counseling, where for me, shock, I was in denial. I stayed in denial probably with my grandmother, probably a year. Like in my mind, like I kind of disassociated myself. So I just stayed, in denial
Mhm.
about she was really gone. Anger, I didn't really ever really just get angry about any of it. Later in life with my dad, I was angry only because I felt like I was robbed of that love, that care. He always called me daddy, sweet girl, blah, blah, blah. I think that's how I became Cookie. So that's my story. I stick to it. I don't know how I got that name. I think it was him. And I'm going to stick to it. I have no point of reference. And so bargaining, typically the bargaining stage comes into place when you're trying to get your mind wrapped around, one, this is my reality. So you're going, so Lord, if I can, if I'm able to do this, then this. If you help me do this, then this, And so just think about the people who don't have that same relationship that we have with God, that realization. So I've dealt with those people, and I often ask them over and over again, I said, what is your reason for, what is your purpose of being able to get up every day, press through the depression, press through the grief itself? And to answer your question, people bounce between stages. Just when you think you have got it together, you're in acceptance, you're able to move on, then you go right back into denial or anger or the whole depression. Depression will ride you the entire time if you don't have a plan.
It sure will.
The plan, it will ride you. People like, oh, you're acting different, or and you have to push yourself through it, because oftentimes, just as a counselor, we're not psychiatrists. I'm not, that's not where I am, so I'm not going to prescribe you any medication, but I can give you tools to assist you along the journey if you're willing to do them. You always hear me say, breathe, taking that deep breath. Whether we realize it or not, we breathe so shallow, but deep breathing allows you to reset. So as you go through these different stages of grief, what's important is to understand you can shift back and forth as many times on this whole journey, because it could be 20 years from now, it could be 30 years from now. Like me thinking about Lena Alexander. That was my grandmother's name, Lena Alexander. And I never talked to Quentin about the whole Alexander thing. But anyway,
Right.
her name was Lena Alexander. Right. I never talked to him about it. It just hit me just then. But she was just a marvelous, strong-willed woman who barred none. You hear me? But when her house burned, that was another, oh my God, trauma. You hear me? I'm like, Lord, Mama, I'm sorry, because we called her Mama. Mama, I'm so sorry. It was like she had just passed away, because that was one of her greatest fears. Because they had the wood burning stove, and up in the flute, she would always say, you can't, gotta make sure there's not something. So it won't, that was not how it caught on fire. It was actually a storm, and I think lightning may have hit the pump, that was out, and it ignited. I think I might be making it up. I don't know. When I tell you it did not, but it wasn't because of a fire. It was a storm, and then and all of that was, like I said, just like she had just passed away. So when you're looking at these stages, like I said, you can shift back and forth only because you don't know where you are. You are trying your best to do all that you can, but at the end of the day, we are human. We have real emotions, real raw feelings, and you have to put them somewhere. You can't stuff it. You've got to process through it. So
That's
it's,
right.
across the board. Like I said, those who had no faith, they later became like, okay, I think I need to try this God that you're talking about, or I've got to find that outlet. I've got to find my purpose because I'm not going to make it. So if you
Yeah.
can reestablish that hope, we can make it.
Mm-hmm.
Without
Mm-hmm.
hope, people feel hopeless.
That's
And
right.
that's where
That's right.
you see the spiral of the mental health decline.
Right.
It's a spiral. People, you see people who you thought, hey, they had it all together, but they were stuck in denial stage, and they caused themselves not to grieve. They were stuck and did not allow anyone to enter in. You know how you close yourself off?
Yeah.
When that
Yeah. Yeah.
happens, that's
Yeah.
when you're locked in. And your mind, I'm telling you,
Right.
your mind is all that we have to be able to try to hold on to. How to it's our mind. Because every action starts with a thought. And we got
Yeah.
to remember that. So if I feel like, Lord help me, I can't even get out the bed today. But you got to see yourself getting out the bed. You got to see yourself getting in that shower. You got, you see what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
has to
Oh,
become
you have to.
a visual in order to walk in it.
Yeah. No, that's true, Miss Joy. I
So
feel like
that's it. You
yeah, it's a roller coaster. Like you say, I mean, one day, I know for me specifically, one day I'm, you know, still in denial. One day I'm
mhm,
bargaining, questioning myself, like
mhm.
why did I not pay attention to this or that? So it's definitely a roller coaster for sure. Yeah, I agree 100%. Um, so I was also going to ask you, Miss Georgie. So, of course, we all have unexpected life events that occur. Whether there's sickness, of course, death. Just life. Like they say, life be life.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
how have you been able to maintain your own personal mental health in during those times? Because I think about,
Okay.
yeah, people, sometimes you may have an illness that just hits you, or you may have a family member that just,
Mhm.
like Quentin, just gone, like no rhyme or reason, even like heart attacks,
Mhm.
just different things. Just want to know how you
Yes.
personally maintained your mental space.
Okay. So you do know I have renal failure, and
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
crazy because there was no, like you said, no rhyme or reason. So when that took place in my life, 2013, I had an upper respiratory infection, and I was at work, and they had to take me by ambulance because I could not breathe. I mean, it was crazy, crazy. And so, my outlook on life is if I have breath in my body,
Mhm.
that's another opportunity, right? So
Right. Right.
when that took place, I couldn't breathe. I'm like, everybody around me is like freaking out, like going, Georgina, da da da. I said, I was at the scene of this window up there at the Workforce Development Center, at the training center. What is it called now?
Yeah.
I don't
It
even know
up
what
at
it's
North,
even called. That's where my
um,
brain is at the moment.
up in
The
Spring Hill,
Northfield.
Northfield. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Northfield
Yeah.
Workforce Development. That's where we were. And I was working out of that office, and there's those big windows. So I took myself into like the seam of the window so that that cool air could hit. Because it was in January, and they kept saying, "Oh, okay." So they did all these tests, and so it was after I had gotten out. They gave me all this medicine. They called me back, and they said, "Do you know that you have stage 2 kidney disease?" At that time, I said, "No, I do not. Oh, we
Wow.
think it'll be fine, blah, blah, blah." It wasn't even a year later. I had gone from stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4, and then here I am in complete renal failure, according to them. And so, me being me, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Right.
So, just as like I'm talking to you, I had prayed, got up, and it's just as clear as I'm talking to you now. It's just take charge of your health. What did I do? I took anything that's processed out of my life. Was walking and walking and walking,
Mhm.
doing all those things. Stayed off of dialysis for 4 years. Was on dialysis three
Wow.
years, 3 days. So how did I do that? I worked full time, didn't, and then I realized that probably wasn't the journey for me. That's
Right.
how God allowed me to go through those things because I'm not a diabetic. I didn't have hypertension. They couldn't
Wow.
figure out how or why that took place. So
Mhm.
when you look at those things, that was traumatic for me. But what
Yeah.
kept me
Oh, yeah.
going through that was that I had to accept this has happened to me.
Okay.
Then, how
Mhm.
am I going to move forward? What's my plan? Every death, the death of my best friend was hard. The death of both of their parents was very hard.
Mhm.
That was like, what, so I became like this little, I'm the funeral coordinator, basically,
I
because
understand.
they
Yeah.
hadn't gone through the death of a parent, but I already had. But then
Mhm.
my nieces, they're losing their mothers who were their
Yeah.
rock. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I help? In 2016, that's when I came up
Yes.
with the whole, grief support plan, and it's all biblically based because that was the foundation that allowed me to keep moving. So what we have to say to ourselves when situations happen, how am I going to
Mhm.
move from this point to that point? We got to realize there's so much in life that we have absolutely no control over. None. We can second
Right.
guess our moves, our positions, but guess what? Some things we have absolutely no control over. That we have some input, that's
Yeah.
where we are able to operate. So just with you coming up with this platform, Tiffany,
Mhm.
this is your wheelhouse. This is where you can operate, and it's going to allow
Yeah.
you to continue to move forward because this is a platform that's open to everybody. Say,
That's
hey,
right.
you're not
That's right.
alone.
That's
Help
right.
me to help you. So at the end of the day, you have to choose what is my next step. Am I going to connect? Because those are my little 3 C's I'm always talking about. Choose, connect, and communicate. But we'll talk more
Oh,
about
okay. I
that
like
as we
that.
go
Oh, I
along.
like that.
But just
Yeah.
knowing that all the things that I have endured, my actions, they had to come from my thoughts. You hear me? Then I had to
Right.
be
That's
able to
right.
lean into my faith.
Yeah.
Meditating, that's how do I
Mhm.
maintain on a daily basis? Because you do realize I
Yeah.
have almost half the state probably at this point
Yes, I
that
know.
I
I know.
operate with the Department of
Yeah.
Labor. So, I was just
Yeah.
in Memphis yesterday. I was in Jackson on Thursday. I was just in Clarksville. I tell people that
Yeah.
they go,
Yeah.
what? Yeah, I drove and came back. I didn't go and stay and come. Yeah, that's another
That's
day, another story. But
ooh.
how do I maintain? I mainly
Mhm.
ride in
Mhm.
silence. I allow that time just to meditate. I look at the trees. I'll let the window down and just allow myself to take deep breaths and say, Lord, you are true. You are real. You are faithful. And so that goes back to that self care. I'm telling you, I got now, I'm trying to go back to, I used to walk a lot or had like a little
Mhm.
circuit I would do every morning. I find myself now, I can't even get to the bike that I'm looking at right before me going, just get on there and just ride. Just go just to
Right.
ride.
Right.
Because
Right.
my time now is, I would do that at 5:30 in the morning. Now some days at 5:30 in the morning, I'm needing to walk out the door to drive to whatever location I need to be for the day. So I've got to now get control of that because that was a great outlet for me. Music is a great outlet for me. Reading is a great outlet for me. So whatever that self-care is for you, that's how I've gotten to where I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody has to find out what works for them. And I also like the fact you mentioned, we have to take charge of our lives and we have to get to a point of
Mm-hmm.
acceptance. Whatever life throws our way, we have to get to that point of
Mm-hmm.
acceptance so we can make the
Mm-hmm.
plan on how we're going to move forward. Because we're
Absolutely.
still here. So I like that
Absolutely.
answer. Thank you. That was very encouraging for me for sure. So let me ask you this. With all of that in mind, how has grief changed your perspective on life or has it? Whether that's grieving,
You know,
death or even, you mentioned in the renal failure. I mean, I'm sure that was a period of like, wow, oh my goodness, like what is this gonna look like
oh yeah.
moving forward? So
Yes. Yeah, Tiffany, I didn't think I was gonna live to see 50. That's why I celebrated the way I did. I did all of that. Yeah, I gave what was it, blankets and hand sanitizers, lotions, what else? Body wash. I did a whole lot of just of that giving back. to my
Yeah,
battle
yeah.
buddies. I did a whole nursing home down in Mount Pleasant. People gave me donations, and I'm walking the
Wow.
journey with them. I said, I'm in here shopping. This is what we were able to do. I had
That's
so
beautiful.
much support that I was
Mhm.
able, my birthday is January 7th. So I
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
the whole year. It was amazing because my dad, once again, passed away at 50. So I thought,
Right.
I'm not going to make it because I am
Yeah,
the chosen
yeah.
one. I'm the one with the ring of failure. What in the world is
Right.
happening to me? And I was like, what? I was shocked at first. Then I was in
Mhm.
denial, of course. Then I was determined that
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
going to do any type of dialysis. But my mom was like, look, you're too young not to, you can make it, you can do whatever. But she was like,
Yeah.
wonk, 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 wonk. It's like,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
it was sounding like to me. But
Right.
what I was able to do with grief as a whole now, I say it's a part of life. We
Right.
all
It's
have a
true, it's true.
purpose. We all have
Mhm.
a plan. When our assignment is complete, it doesn't matter what we think. Our
Yeah,
assignment is complete. So I look at
it's true.
grief as just that. Whoever is past, whoever has lost something, if you lost a job, if you lost a home, that part of your life is complete. But
Yeah.
when it's death, your assignment is complete. That doesn't mean if you've lost a job, if you lost a home, if you take that deep breath, you have another opportunity. But in
Mhm.
death, you look at that person's life. What was their meaning? What was their purpose? What impact did they have on me? And
Right,
you take a
right.
moment and just think about that. And then you
Mhm.
go back and start looking at those memories. Like, what did they always say that they wanted to do? If I'm not here, I want you to do what? Sometimes we
Yeah.
never get that opportunity because I think about with my grandmother. She said, she never did prepare. People don't prepare you to live without them, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
when I look at grief, I tell people, think about those conversations because if they was someone who never talked about, death with Quentin, we know he did. He
Yes,
just,
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
told him, I said, I knew in his heart of hearts, he wanted to be a funeral director. I know he did
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh,
he
yeah.
had,
Oh, yeah. Down
I
pat.
was like, he said, Miss Georgia, da, 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 da. I said, man, I would laugh at him. He would tell me some things, Tiffany. I'm like, what? Like, but
Oh,
he,
I
he
know.
never really shocked me.
No. Mm-mm.
He never really
Because
shocked me. He just knew
yep.
that I loved him and he loved me, and whatever it was,
That's
I'm here,
right.
I'm going to support you. That's all it
That's
was.
right.
So when I look
Yep.
at all of those things, what I'm saying today is whatever conversations that we are having with our loved ones or the circumstances or situations that have allowed us to be in a place, we've got to look at, okay, it's happened. It's happened, whatever that
Yeah.
is. Now
Yeah.
what?
That's
Now
right.
what?
That's right.
I have breath still, or I have so many memories. I have so much to be thankful for because why? I had an opportunity to experience that joy, that unconditional love, that peace. You know what I'm saying? And because
Mhm.
I had a love for whatever it was, and that was a commonality for whoever I mates or friends or whoever it is, because so much, I'm telling you, I look around at people now, the death of mothers, friends, fathers, cousins, children.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I
Mhm.
can't even
Yes,
fathom
ma'am.
losing a child, but my sister did.
Mm,
And
mm,
oh my
mhm.
God, my nephew was so, so sweet and full 13 years old. And
13
you're
years old,
thinking,
yeah.
how rare, you know what I'm saying?
Why?
I look
Yeah.
at her and she's still able to go. She didn't lose
Yeah.
her mind. That
Right.
is and I
Yeah.
talk to your mom, I tell you, we don't
Yeah.
know about that stage. So we see people who
Mhm.
are able to keep going when you have lost a
Mhm.
child. Because
Right.
as bad and as hurtful as it's the pain that you feel in the loss of your mate, your friend, your whatever
Mhm.
that is in our lives, to experience the loss of a child to me is I can't even fathom. I don't want to fathom. But when I
Right.
look at grief and as a whole, it's
Mhm.
now what?
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
this circumstance or this person mean to me? what am I going to do next? I can't look to someone else. I have to look in the mirror at
Yeah,
myself, because this thing is individualized. You can have other people around you, but
that's
yet you
right. It's
still
true.
feel
Yep.
alone.
Oh yeah, you
So
can.
we got to
Yep.
remember that.
Yeah. You're right. And
So
I like
grief
how
as a
you.
whole, I look at it as an opportunity. I do. I
Mhm.
look at it as an opportunity to be able to be a vessel for
Mhm.
God,
Mhm.
because that's when people are at their lowest. They
Yeah,
are
it is.
empty on the
Yeah.
inside. And my thought now is, how could I be used to help someone else on this journey? Because it's not the same. I don't care if you lost the same, person, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The relationship you had is different from the relationship with the father, the mother, the sister, you know what I'm saying? Whoever, the cousin. So you got to
Yeah.
always remember that it could be a commonality in a person or a situation, but I can't tell
Mhm.
you how to grieve. I can't tell you how to feel, but I can support you and say that this too shall pass,
Yeah.
only if you
Yeah.
allow yourself to accept it and
Mhm.
stand.
Yeah.
Accept it and stand. If not, your mind, I'm telling you, it's going to circle back around and around and around. And that hole, you're trying to figure out, how do I fill this hole? That hole cannot
Yeah.
be filled on your own. It's through
Mm-mm.
purpose and understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grief
I
as a
like how
whole,
you
I'm just looking at it as
mentioned.
an opportunity.
Yeah, to experience the people. And I like how you, because Quinn would always say that, like, Tiffany, people ain't gonna always be fit. We gotta, you gotta just learn to experience people. And you know, you know him. So at the time I'm like, I know, but you just really don't think about that until you're in a situation like this where it's like, I had a really good experience with that boy. Was it perfect always? No, nothing's perfect. But I mean, the things he poured into me now, I can definitely, I wish he could see how I'm able to use a lot of the tools that I did not always have and different understandings. And all that was due to
Mm-hmm.
me, the experience I got with him. And so I
Right.
like that answer, Miss Georgia, because it's really important, and that's what we can. I was talking to somebody, and they were saying you focus on that, not how the person left this earth. You focus on the experience you had, and so that's just such a true. That's a true statement for sure.
Yeah, because it doesn't take away the pain, but it helps you to understand. Oh, it's purpose. Purpose.
Yep.
All
Yep.
this happened for a reason, right? And now you can
Right.
pull back from
Right.
all that foundational knowledge, because, oh my God, he had a wealth of
Yeah.
knowledge.
Oh
Biblically
yes.
sound minded. That's why you had to go like,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
growling like, I'm not gonna get into a conversation with you about God,
Right.
because honey, we're gonna be out of
Right.
here, because he
Right.
had the word. He's gonna give you
Yeah.
the word. And I'm like,
Oh
I get
yeah.
it. I get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
as fun as it is right now, and as frustrated as you may have been, just along the way, because you wanted things
yeah,
to happen when you wanted them to happen. And
yeah, yeah.
through this whole grief process, we realize it's when God wants it to happen. We
That's
have to
true.
yield to Him. We have, it's only a little bit about life, just a little, that we actually
Yeah,
have control over.
that's right.
And I
Yeah,
think
I've
people
learned it.
lose sight of
Oof.
that. They want to,
Yeah,
I did this or I did that. No, it's only by God that
by
we do
God, that's
anything,
right.
really.
Yeah,
If you are not a believer, then guess what? You keep on going. At some
yeah,
point, you're going to have to call upon the name of the Lord, because you're going to find yourself somewhere, whether you call him God or whoever, a
whoever.
power greater
Mhm.
than you, you're going to have to call
That's
on them.
right.
But for me, it's my God.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
is what I tell you. I just keep pulling on it. You're like, Lord, I need you now. That's why I love that song. I need you now.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
not
Yeah,
another
that's a good
second,
one.
not another minute, I need you to come right
Right,
away.
right
And
away.
sometimes
Yeah.
that's what we need. And sometimes it's like quicker, come quickly. He would say
Mhm.
he's an on time God, but it's just when you think he's not present,
Yeah.
he is. So I look at grief as, like I said, an opportunity, because we got to look at the experiences we had with the person, the situation, the thing, and take from that.
Mhm. That's true. That is so true. I'm glad you mentioned some stuff about purpose. That was actually the next question. And thinking about grief experiences, have you found purpose in some of the experiences that you have have encountered? Have you feel like you found your purpose in life at this point?
I have, and like I said, and my purpose is none other than to be a support, to be someone to encourage someone else along the way. That's my purpose. That's my purpose for life. Period. And, me and my positive edges for the day. Good Super
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yes.
Tomorrow's gonna
Yes.
be good,
Yes.
splendid,
Yes.
sanctified Sunday. And it was so funny, Tiffany. I don't care where I have worked, what I have
Uh-huh.
gone through. They're like, what day is it again? People try to
Yeah.
hang on to that because you have to walk into it. So my
That's right.
purpose is trying to find positivity through the
Mhm.
midst of all the hurt, the trauma, the pain. It's like I know this is not going to
Yeah.
last always. And if I
That's
can
right.
get up today and say it's a super Saturday because I can get up and look in the mirror, I can
That's
take a
right.
deep breath, I can hear you, you can see me, I still
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
activity of my limbs, I do have a portion of my health, I do
That's
have
right.
the ability to stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a super Saturday.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
super
Count your
Saturday.
blessings. Yeah. Yeah. We're all very
So my
tremendously
purpose is
blessed.
just to encourage.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you've always been there. Like always, yes. For me and definitely for Quentin as well. Yes. He would listen in them days of in that computer lab, yes. He heard everything you said.
And
For
he
sure.
is coming there cutting up is what that was.
Oh yeah, don't tell me.
Cutting up, but
Cutting up completely.
and
Completely.
oh yeah, but as I look back,
Yeah.
all of that,
Hmm.
our life
Yeah.
journey, it was all about his life journey. That's what
That's
people
right.
didn't often know about
Yeah.
Quentin. If he,
Yeah.
if he, if he, I mean, he's going to open up his arm to receive you, but if you knew him,
Hmm.
he opened up to give you part of that journey. He didn't go all the way
Yeah.
to the core of it, but
Right.
I always listened to what he didn't say.
Yes.
And he was
Yeah.
determined. He allowed his faith to help him
Oh
get
yeah, for
through that
sure.
web of that disappointment, that hurt,
Yeah.
that constant reminder of, abuse. I mean, it's what it is. It's that
Yeah.
unspoken.
Yeah.
Yet,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
sit quietly enough, you
Mhm.
got to hear the big picture.
Yeah, yeah.
It didn't take much. You don't have to look all the way back. We all have
Mm-mm.
something in our lives
Something. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
hurt us. That was a
Oh yeah,
disappointment. And
for sure.
we
Yeah.
choose to do something about it. We can choose to not talk to that person again or do
Yeah.
whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
we got some treacherous things that happen.
Oh yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if I'm going to am I going to really give you that much of my piece of my life? No,
That's right.
I'm going to forgive
That's
you
right. Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
I can move on.
Move
You may
on.
not
Yeah.
ever apologize to me. You may not ever acknowledge that you did something wrong because to most people, when they do things, they don't even think they've done anything wrong because they're sick
Mm-mm.
in their mind. The cycle of
Mhm.
abuse, if it's never addressed, it's going to continue to be a cycle
Continue. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
becomes
That's true.
normal. And so with
Yeah.
grief,
Yeah.
if you have
Yeah.
people who never accept, they just like, oh, you just got to get up and you got to put your clothes on. You just got to do. It shouldn't be this hard. Well,
Yeah.
that's their
Yeah.
coping mechanism. They're going to try to inflict the same thing on you. But at the end of the day, you got to get up and say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but it's not
Mhm.
as easy as you're saying it for me. I'm going to get
Yeah.
there. I'm going to get to where I need to be, but I'm trusting God in the process. I'm trusting my ability of what I am able to do to get me
Mhm.
through. So I always remember that it's
Mhm.
not what we see now.
Right.
Okay, because
Right.
sometimes you pack away, and if I can share this with you, as I watch you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I look at all the things that have happened.
Mhm.
The
That's
death of
right.
your grandmother, it was big, it was huge, because
Oh
you
yeah.
loved her. I mean, not
Oh,
that you didn't love your
definitely.
grandfather, but that was younger. It was a time
Right.
frame, but y'all had a different
Right.
relationship. You, her,
Oh
Tiffany.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For
And
sure.
that you had Quentin there because he
Yes.
understood, he understood death. I'm telling you, he
Oh yeah.
understood death.
Yes,
Yes,
he
it
did.
hurt, but he understand that purpose that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so what
yeah.
I see
Absolutely.
where you are now, not having
Mhm.
him, because
Yeah.
it's him that you're grieving
Yeah.
now, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, do you remember what we did? because like you didn't totally grieve your grandmother because it was kind of like you had him and then y'all
Yeah.
moved forward. You see what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow,
I was in
like she's
Memphis
gone.
and it was just a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so now it's like, wait a minute, both of y'all are gone
Right.
and I'm still here.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
it's just relationships. And even with your aunt's son, that was a different relationship. And you
Yes.
just think about things,
Yeah.
how it was a different relationship. And then you get
Yeah.
to a point where that connection is no longer present. But how do I
Mhm.
move forward? So I
Yeah.
say that to say, as you're grieving now on this journey
Mhm.
and you're doing this
Okay.
platform, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that all of it is going to
Mhm.
come full circle into a connection where when you walk in your peace, you
Yeah.
can remember your grandmother, her recipes and stuff that you were able to bake and do, what I'm saying,
Mhm.
in honor
Yeah.
of,
Right.
because
Right.
your grief was short because you had somebody right there to kind of stuff it with you. You know what I'm saying? Like we're
Yes,
gonna, you know what
that's
I'm saying?
true.
Like we're gonna,
Yes.
we're gonna go
Yeah.
on, we're gonna go to this church and
Yeah.
we're gonna do whatever we're gonna do.
Yes.
We're gonna
Yes.
go,
Uh-huh.
out to eat,
Oh
but
yeah.
whatever, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
so now this
Yeah.
is why it's so challenging now because like I think I shared with you, I said nobody knew
Mhm.
him like you knew him, and nobody knows you
Right.
like he knew you.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, that's true, Miss Georgia. Yeah. Yeah, that's
And so it's
yeah,
like I
it
said,
was
it's
just it
that
was
purpose.
us.
So like
Mhm.
I said, it's difficult, but I think
Mhm.
this platform is just, oh man, like I told you, I said, I cannot wait until we're like, hey, where we at? I am right here only because he made a way. He made a way for me to breathe and not feel like I can't breathe. He made a way for me to be okay when so many days I wasn't okay, that
Right.
part.
That's right. Oh
And then
yeah.
as we're talking about the new
Mhm.
year, okay, you're like, man,
Mhm.
does that mean I close out what happened in 2024? No, that means what happened in 2024 is only going to make me better. Or whenever the year was that you
Mhm.
experienced that loss,
Lost.
each year is only going to bring out another form of greatness in you. Why? Because I lived through this. I'm able
Mhm.
to live through this.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'm
Yeah.
standing up today
Yeah.
recognizing if I have lived through all of this, I'm still here. I don't care if it was 2 months, one day. If it's
Right.
months, you
Right.
really like pinch yourself like, what? I didn't think I would make it here.
That's true. Yeah.
Continue to do just that.
I will.
And
I
it's
will.
gonna
I
be okay.
appreciate
But
that.
I just wanted to share that little part with you because I said,
Yeah.
man, Tiff is now going back
Mhm.
and pulling that
Mhm.
grief forward. Like, because it could
Yeah.
have been, well, I'm gonna go talk to grandma. Grandma, can you
Yeah.
believe Quinn ain't here? No, you can't because grandma left before Quinn. And you know how
That's
they cut
right.
up together. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Oh
like, wait
yeah.
a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you have to I can say that like you said, Miss Georgina Quentin prepared us all for, this is the process of life.
Yeah.
Not to say I thought it would
Yes.
come any like so I thought we would grow old together, whatever capacity it looked like
Right.
for us. So it's just like, now that he's not here, you definitely have to pull from the things he was teaching us all along that I was hearing
Mm-hmm.
but wasn't really hearing because I'm not a person, I don't do the death talk.
Mm-hmm.
That was him. But now I'm like, man,
Right.
I really see it. And so, yeah, I appreciate those words you just spoke over me. I really appreciate that. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Like I said, this is a journey. I think it's
Mhm.
not,
It
it's a
is.
journey.
It really
It's
is. Oh
lifelong
yeah.
because it could be a smell. It can be
Yes.
somebody just saying something. I mean, it's
Mhm.
crazy what will trigger you to be
Yeah.
like, man, have I slid all the way back? No, it's just that
Yeah.
reminder. I'm still human. I'm still trusting
Mhm.
God to see me through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Miss Georgia, we're gonna switch gears and go a little bit into your professional, just some professional experience. Let me ask you
Okay.
this. We talked a little bit about therapy briefly. Do you think in-person therapy is more impactful than like virtual? Because of course, now we have all these virtual options. So I just wanted to know from your
Right.
perspective, like, is it just about convenience, or do you think it's more? Me personally, I'm more of a I want to talk and see somebody. We're in the same space kind of person. If I have to do virtual, I will.
Hmm.
But I'm more so like that connection is what I kind of like. But what's your thoughts as the professional
My, in my
perspective?
opinion, it's based on the person. If a
Okay.
person is tuned in, just like we're
Hmm.
talking here,
Yeah,
it can
yeah,
work just
yeah.
fine. But if a
Okay.
person mentally, they're a
Hmm.
wanderer, then it's not gonna matter if you're in person or
Hmm.
or virtual. But I
Yeah.
love the opportunity to meet and talk in person because I feel like
Hmm.
you are able to kind of make a different connection. But it doesn't matter. Just think about in the life that we're in now, social media is taking over. Think about all the people who met
Yeah.
people through social media and how they,
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
saying?
true.
So it's about
Mhm.
your mindset and what your expectations are on the counseling experience. Both ways. I've had customers, clients who did not want to come in person because of
Mhm.
their own issues, but they were
Yeah.
had the buy-in that they were, every week at the right time they were going to be there. They did they utilized the tools. They come back perfect.
Mhm.
If you're
Yeah.
not in it for the right reasons, it doesn't matter if it's in person or virtual.
Or virtual. Gotcha.
That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I said, I do love, in person, but it's based on the client's needs. And if
Mhm.
you have that buy-in, it doesn't matter. You can be in
Yeah.
person or virtual and make the same impact.
Impact. Gotcha. Gotcha. So in thinking through that, Ms. Joy, I know earlier we touched on the 5 stages of grief. Um, of course,
Hmm.
depression is something we talked about for a little minute. Um, How do you suggest someone get out of that stage of grief? Because I think it can be really easy to stay in that depression state. Like, I don't want to get out of bed.
Hmm.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to go eat. I don't want to do this or that. Any suggestions on that?
Yes. Well, for me, I tell people depression is one of those situations. I'm not even gonna call it illness. I'm not gonna call it a condition. I'm just gonna say situation. Okay,
Okay.
because when
Okay.
you label it, it's kind of like your mind wraps around it. Okay,
I
we know
see.
depression comes in so many different forms and it affects people differently. The best way is routine. Routine. A person who is
Routine.
depressed has to try to maintain a routine to keep themselves going. If you know
Okay.
someone who works who's depressed,
Hmm.
well, they are functional depressed. You know what I'm saying? They can get through the day, but then on the weekends, they don't ever move. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
keeping a routine, keeping yourself involved in the things that bring you joy, because that purpose is how you work through depression. I tell people often, I said, routine, routine, routine. They're like, what are you talking about, routine? You
Hmm.
find yourself like people who become disabled after working, 10 years, 20,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
purpose. What's my purpose? You got to go back to what, because that was a routine, right? You get up at a certain
Right.
time, you do this, you come back.
Yep.
You got to
Hmm.
reestablish a routine for yourself to work the depression and not allow it to work you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that routine, trying to be consistent,
Mhm.
whatever your outlet is, we hope it's something positive that you don't turn to, something that's going to harm you.
Yeah,
Looking for
yeah.
something positive. Like the thing about and the grief of death or whatever it can be, I tell you, we have to find out what was my role in this
Mhm.
because your role changes. And if your role changes, how do I move into a different role? And most often than not, it's understanding who I am without that
Mhm.
person or without that thing, our
Yeah.
identity. Who am I now?
Right. Oh,
So,
yeah.
routine, reestablishing your purpose, understanding who you are is the only way to push,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Pushing through, pressing
Pushing
through
through, pressing
depression.
through it. Yeah, I
Those are
like
always
that.
my tools when I'm counseling. I said, we sit
Mhm.
back. I said, after the tears,
Yeah.
after numbness with the
Mhm.
depression, who are you? I often ask them, who are you? What do
Yeah.
you want out of life? Because because you can go from depression into hopelessness. And
Oh
that's why
yeah.
you reestablish
Hmm.
yourself, keep saying, okay,
Yeah.
what is it that keeps me moving? What is it that I want to do? How do I get there? So shall a man thinketh is he.
Mm,
So
that's
you see what I'm
true.
saying? You
Yep. Yep. I do. Hmm.
power. There's so much power. Life and death is in the power of the tongue,
Power.
and that is so true when you're speaking
Hmm.
with depression. You hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Um, so switching gears from that, Miss Georgie, how do you know you're beginning to heal? Because I had a situation that occurred a couple days ago, and I woke up regular day, just like, okay, I gotta go visit these daycares. I went, visited one, did some documentation. Okay, because it's like after
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving, so we've got over the holiday, right? And so then I come back
Mm-hmm.
home and my day is done from work, which seemed typical. And then it's like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, today is the day that this boy left this earth 7 months ago. But I was
Mm-hmm.
told by two people, Tiffany, that means that you're in the process of starting to heal. Not that you forgot that day, but you was once again in your routine. And you even wrote the date,
Mm-hmm.
12/3/2024. And it did not click in your head then. It wasn't until you got home and everything that's normal to you is over with the workday that it just hits. And
Mm-hmm.
so it made me think like, does that mean I'm healing? Or like how do we know when we're starting to heal from grief? Or can you heal from grief? I don't know. It may be a three-part question. So I don't know what your thoughts are around it.
Okay, so first of all, what do you how do you define healing? Number one.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have to always think about, how do I
Good
define
point.
healing? And what does
Yeah.
healing look like? Okay, healing when we're sick or we got a cut or we had
Mm-hmm.
surgery, that means
Right.
that it's now, back to its normal, our skin is now back connected, okay? We don't have
Yes.
stitches or we don't have, okay? So that's
Right.
healing.
Right.
It's now, like the scab, okay?
Yeah.
Let's look at it just like that. So we've
Okay.
had surgery, it's cut open, right? And they've had to stitch it, whether it's with glue or whatever. Well,
Right.
you get that scab first, right?
Yes.
Start
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard and
Mm-hmm.
you got to keep, making sure it's
Yeah.
clean and all of that.
Yeah.
Then, that's that layer, it has to peel off, right?
Right.
And
That's right.
then finally you can kind of see where there's no more blood. It's kind of, it's not your tone, it has not matched your natural tone, it's still lighter. And then
Mhm.
finally, it gradually comes back to your natural skin tone. But yet, that scar is still there, right?
Right. That's true.
So
Mhm.
healing is about what my expectations are of healing. Am I able today to get up and feel good about myself, feel that I'm making some progress? Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
I feel like I'm healing, right? It's a process. And let's not trick ourselves into thinking healing is a sign of completion in grief. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You can't
Mhm.
look at it like a sign of completion, like I'm over there, I can do this now. Because what did I tell you? It could be 20 years from now, and you going through and you looking and you think, oh my God, they're
Yeah.
gone. For real.
Yep.
It could be a song and it just comes back to
Mhm.
you just like, oh, does that mean I'm no longer healed? Of course, that
Mhm.
does not mean I'm no longer healed, but I'm still human. But as I'm able to move forward, as I'm able
Mhm.
to pour into others, am I, able to kind of enjoy life? Then I'm no, it's a constant process as I'm healing. It didn't say that
Gotcha.
I am healed, right?
Right.
Healed
Gotcha.
versus healing.
Healing.
So
Gotcha.
let's choose
Yeah.
our words. Let's look
Uh-huh.
at what our
Mhm.
expectations are. So,
Yeah.
am I healing? Yes. Yes, you're healing. But at what point are you going to put the stamp on it and say, I'm healed? We don't
Right.
know if that ever truly
Ever.
happens,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
understand and can appreciate things have gotten easier.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
have gotten easier. I can breathe a little better today. I can walk a little
Hmm.
differently today. I can feel myself a little bit better today, you know?
Yeah.
I'm able
Yeah.
to complete a task that I hadn't been able to complete. I'm able, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So
Yeah. Yeah.
healing is a process. Healed
Process.
sounds like it's complete. But remember now,
Hmm.
any surgery, anything that's happened, that scar is what? Still there.
Still gonna be there.
Even
Yep.
today, at the
Yep.
best plastic
Yep.
surgeon or whatever, you can look and say, there's a dot. I remember having chicken pox. I still
Uh-huh.
got a dot,
Uh-huh.
and that's been over 50 years almost, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
not 50, but 40 something for real. And I
Yeah.
still
And
have a
it's still
dot.
there. Yep. I got chicken pox too somewhere on my forehead still where I scratched
Okay.
it and wasn't supposed
Hmm.
to. So I like that you broke that down.
Right.
Words matter, and yeah, so
Hmm.
that is really important, and every word, like you say, healing versus heal, two totally different. When we weigh that scale, two totally different meanings. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, because now I can look at that question different and also look at my own situation different as well. Like you say, it's a
Hmm.
process. It's a process, so that's
Right.
something I have
And
to
and
keep
that's what I
in
said, don't get
mind.
stuck in, yeah, yeah, no. Don't take
Yeah.
anything for granted. Every day that you're able to do something that you wouldn't do able to do a month ago, guess what?
Yeah.
You're healing.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
walking into that purpose. You know what I'm saying? Healing purpose. So,
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Somebody, one of my mom daddy church members said, they told my mom if Tiffany's getting up taking a shower today, she's on her way. She's on her way.
hmm
Just something that simple. She said because she's a nurse practitioner in her practice. She's seen it
uh
where that's not even an option for people. So that really makes a lot of sense
right.
when you're wrapping it around that
I'm
way.
telling
Yeah.
you, you are
Yeah.
farther along than you realize. You hear me?
Yeah,
You
I've been
are.
told that. I don't feel like it, but I've definitely been told that a few times. So I appreciate you for reconfirming that, because that's beneficial for me too, and I'm sure it is for other people as well. When other people can recognize what you don't always recognize in yourself, and I think that's really
Yes.
important. Really important.
Yeah, just be kind to
Yeah,
yourself. I tell people, be kind to
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. I hear
Because
that all
now
the
you can
time.
just be just critical of everything. Don't
Yeah,
spiral into that negative. Like, I just can't believe why would this happen, and people look doing this,
yeah,
and because you become judgmental because you can't understand why people are able to still function and why you know what I'm saying?
yep,
Step
yep,
back, be
yep.
kind to yourself, and understand everything is a process because we want it right now. We want to know exactly who, what, when, how, and how dare
Oh
you.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh
But then
yes.
you gotta
Oh
say, that's
yes.
a whole lot of energy.
Yeah,
That's
it
a whole
is.
lot of
It
energy and
is.
that'll build up. So be kind to yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
what is your routine is it a walking, a dance routine? Is it a singing routine? What is it that frees
Mm-hmm.
your mind so that your
Yeah.
body can
Yeah.
follow? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That
Oh
you
yeah.
got to be kind.
That's a good point, Miss
Be
Georgia.
kind to yourself.
Um, I guess this next question, what I wrote was this. I'm gonna see if it makes sense. I'm just gonna read it because it's kind of long.
Okay.
What would you tell a person who is making every effort to move forward in life but still struggles with the extreme highs and lows of grief? So I guess it goes back to that whole roller coaster, how 1 minute you may be in denial, minute you may be like, okay, I can accept this. What would you tell that
Hmm.
person? The example I had wrote out was kind of what I just told you, at 4:30 on a Friday, I probably done talked to some coworkers. Everybody has their plans for the weekend. Well, now my plans are completely different. And it may start out like, oh,
Hmm.
it's Friday, it is the weekend, but then it's like my weekend is completely different now. This is not the same weekend I've been accustomed to for 19 years. So what would you tell
Hmm.
that person that kind of goes through that? Because for me, it makes me feel like, oh, I feel like I'm so kind of what we just talked about. It may be the same question, but so I'm further
Hmm.
along, but then it's like I get knocked right back down. Like last night, it's like, okay, I'm counting down the time to all this stuff happen. I'm counting down the time until his daddy called me. And so I just started going
Hmm.
downhill and like I'm just ready to go to sleep at this point. So just those extreme highs and
Hmm.
lows. Any advice more than what you've already given on that? And I'm assuming that
Okay.
it's probably completely normal too.
Yeah, I would like it goes back to being kind to yourself. It's
Mhm.
good to acknowledge, and I know Fridays are very hard for you. Sometimes I'm compelled and guided to send you something on a Friday. Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
pray.
Yeah, I appreciate
Just be
that.
kind to yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's you know what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like, why am I not doing something? Why have I not made plans? So I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah. That's
it's
true.
never going to be the same. But
Mhm.
why have I not? So, you being able to go and do that whole thing, that was something different outside of the norm. But it's almost like
Yeah.
now you have to find what works for you on a Friday
On a
night or
Friday.
Friday evening.
Mhm.
If you want to go to the movies, if you want to, whatever that is, if you want to sit and
Yeah.
have your music on, dancing in the middle of the, of the floor, with yourself, or
Yeah.
choose to go, say, hey, I'm gonna choose to be friends with someone
Yeah.
outside of, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your friendships were pretty much rooted around
Mhm.
Quentin. And you gotta go back and
Yeah.
say, now who
Yeah.
was I friends with
Yeah.
before? Are
Uh-huh.
we not at the same level? I mean, you got Rosalind, you know what I'm saying? So she's gonna
Yeah.
always be Rosalind to you, you know what
Oh
I'm saying?
yeah. Oh
But it's
yeah.
like at this
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
so I'm saying it's like everybody
That's
started
true.
moving and doing their own things because we get older.
Right. Right.
So
Right. That's true.
now on a Friday, say, what does Tiffany want to do? And anybody who's
Mhm.
struggling, just like you're saying that you are, be kind to
Yeah.
yourself and say, what is that I would do if I didn't have? Because you remember, think about the times you were able to compromise what y'all did on a Friday
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
what
Yeah. For
you
sure.
wanted to do. Now you don't have to
Yeah.
compromise
Yeah.
that. It's about you.
Yeah. 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 Mhm. That's true. Yep.
So rather than dwell on, okay, it's this time. I know it's about to happen. I can't believe it. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
What do I want to do?
Yeah.
What did I compromise on year after year after year just to save
Mhm.
face? Because sometimes, it's going to be my way and he compromised.
Uh-huh.
More often than
Right.
not, I'm probably compromising because I had to grow accustomed to this lifestyle. I'm thinking, man, it's got to be more
Yeah.
to life than us going to church.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
we're going to
Hanging
play
out.
these cards or what, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it
Right.
is, you're thinking.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
were more introverted, you were comfortable with
Yeah.
that one on
Oh
one
yeah.
or two or three, four,
Oh
five
yeah.
people
Mhm.
versus
Mhm.
get a big crowd that he could just vibe in. You looking like, what
Yes.
in the world? If you don't
I'm
sit
looking at
down,
everybody.
sit down.
Mhm. Who are you?
Yes,
You and you.
sit down. You don't know these
Very
people.
protective for sure.
So,
Yeah.
right. So now where you are
Mhm.
is seriously,
Yeah.
let's start planning some things instead of just sitting waiting on the time for that call, when that call happened
Mhm.
and how it made you
Yeah.
feel. Like that's when the
Yeah.
walls closed in, that's
Oh, it
when
did. Yes.
everything began
Oh
to
yeah.
crumble.
Sure did.
So now it's like, okay, I compromised on this because he didn't like doing this. Or I'm gonna go paint. Or I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
get
go.
my
Mhm.
canvas and I'm gonna have, my music going and you say, hey, y'all wanna paint? Or go to the paint place because you can get the canvases now. Like, I'm gonna have a paint party. Or we're gonna, you know what I'm
Party.
saying?
Yeah.
Things that
Yeah.
you enjoy, but you stop
Mhm.
doing as a result of
Yeah.
finding out. I tell everybody, find what you enjoy and
Mhm.
reestablish who you are.
Yeah, that makes sense, Miss Georgie. It really does. I've had a few people, say you just have to find ways to like you say, stuff that brings you joy and the things that you like. Because like you said, I mean, when you are with somebody from that period of time, I mean, yeah, I have the things I may do on a Friday night. He has the things we may do, but it's always like we know it's an option when we go get something to eat on Friday if we choose to, or Saturday or whatever.
Mhm.
And now that that is completely broken, it's very difficult and it's very different because we were so tied into,
Right.
just our daily interactions. And so now it's like I gotta, like you say, whole new routine. So yeah, I appreciate that answer for sure. So let me ask you this. In thinking about that, Miss Georgie, I know you mentioned earlier, of course, you are not a psychiatrist. I guess that's who really prescribes like medications.
Mhm.
But I wanted to know your perspective on people who are dealing with grief. For me, I mean, I lost my appetite, still sometimes don't have one. Like sleeping has not been the easiest thing for me since all this has happened. Um, How do you feel like medication can benefit a person when it comes to the bodily just functions of them, being able to, you know, live and grieve properly? Because have I felt like I was losing my mind? Yes, a whole lot. Did I ever feel like I needed medication for my mind, like I want to, like I may do something crazy? No, not really. But the sleep stuff, the
Hmm.
not eating stuff, like you have to eat. Like you
Hmm.
can't just not. My mom would be like, Tiffy, you have to eat this sandwich. I don't care if you take 3 bites. You got to eat something.
Right.
And for me, I was completely shut down from all of that for months. Like some, even now,
Hmm.
I'm not eating like I typically would. And so I just wanted to know your
Hmm.
perception of the whole bringing medication into something when you're grieving.
Right. And of course, that's a case by case
Mm-hmm.
basis, a study, of course, but you have to do what you think is best
Mm-hmm.
for you. That's any individual. Because if you can't get your mind to shut off, it's going to be
Yeah.
very difficult to sleep.
Oh yeah.
So
Yep.
meditation is at the top of my list. I mean true meditation, being
Meditation.
able to just disconnect from everything and everybody. If that works for you,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. I tell people if melatonin, if it works,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little, natural. If it
Yeah.
works, go for it. You have to sleep or your body will never heal. Your mind,
Right.
so you have
It's
to look
true.
at, hey, can I have a low dose of something if that's what it takes? But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, mind, body, and soul, we're not pieces of people. So therefore, you have
Mm-hmm.
got to make sure you gain control of your
Yeah.
mind because then the
Yeah.
rest,
Mm-hmm.
okay, is going to
Right.
align. So if you can
Right.
figure out if I meditate, if I do the, whatever that is, you just even just sitting here now, just if you
Yeah.
find out what's calming, what's
Right.
soothing, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
relax you to the point where, okay, I'm good. I'm good for
Yeah.
today. I've had all this hustle and bustle, but I'm good
Yeah.
today. If medication works, I say
Mm-hmm.
low dose. I'll try something natural first because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, that's only a tool, okay? It's
Right.
only a
Right.
tool. You
Right.
don't never
Right.
want to
Right.
mask that,
Mm-hmm.
with something
Yeah.
because then there goes another thing. Oh, are you abused? You're doing substance abuse now? No,
Mm-hmm.
I just need
That's
something at
true.
this point just to keep me mellow.
Yeah.
Like I need to be able to go to sleep at night. You may not need
Yeah.
anything for the course of the day. I don't need an upper and a downer. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
you have to first acknowledge what's the need and
Yeah.
then go from there. I'm not anti-medication, but I do feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people have to first work on themselves
Yeah.
and look
Oh
at
yeah.
alternatives
Mhm. Yeah,
to be
I
able
think
to,
that's
yeah, because
good.
like I said, we're whole people.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes like just like with hunger, most time we really are thirsty. So if I
Yeah,
pick up this bottle of water, I drink this bottle of water, am I really hungry or was I really thirsty?
was really
So
thirsty. Makes sense.
how am I gonna quiet my mind? So do I
Yeah.
just need to have to maybe check something off for the day so that I
Mhm.
can breathe? Like, okay, I got that accomplished. You know how we are,
Oh
high
yeah.
stress,
Oh
like,
yeah.
and it feels so good
Yeah.
when you're able to say, I'm finished.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the same
Yes.
thing about being able to go to sleep at night. How do I wind down, shut my brain off to say, I am at peace? Peace
Mhm.
is what's going to get us to be able to go to sleep and
Mhm.
not, wake up and, it's a nightmare. Like this has really happened to me. It's that
Yeah.
peace that you're trying to get to be able to cut your
True.
brain off to say it's night. It's time to get up. It's time to lay
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. That's
So no,
true.
I'm not
That's true.
anti-medication, but it's case
Okay.
by case, and people have got to do the things that they know are going to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. And Miss Georgia, we getting close to the end. A lot of the questions that I
Okay.
had, the life coach questions, you kind of already answered. I was going through looking at them, but I think a lot of it you have already mentioned in on. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, because you talked about. I was going to ask you about like what's some positive resolutions for someone who's grieving in this new year, but routine and just a lot of the stuff you've already mentioned falls right into that category. Um, I
Hmm.
will ask you this though, and then we'll wrap. You've mentioned, of course, you do like the marvelous Monday, the terrific Tuesday, all the positivity, like positive affirmations starting, every day of the week. Um, how do you
Hmm.
find joy in each day?
Well, when you've gone through life changing situations where you could be here, you could not, I
Mm-hmm.
look at it as appreciation. I look at it as opportunity. I say I can choose. When I talked about, you can
Yes,
choose, connect, and
yes,
communicate. I
yeah.
choose to live and not
Mm-hmm.
exist. So I choose every day as an opportunity to walk into purpose positively. We know
Mm-hmm.
life happens. So what I
Right,
say to
right.
people, let's start the day with, I don't care what happens today. I'm up. I'm moving. Guess what?
Yeah,
This is going to be super Saturday because I got that opportunity. How am I going to
yeah,
impact my life first and foremost? That is something that I can achieve that I had on that to do list. Number
yeah,
one.
yeah. That's
So
true.
I look at it as I have to say positive affirmations because life is real.
It
If I
is
stayed in the
very real.
negative, and listen
Yeah.
to and entertain all the negative people. That's why I would tell you what,
Mm-mm.
protect your peace.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can't
having to
help
do
you
that,
what
Miss
I'm
Joy.
still going through. I can say I
Yeah,
love you, but I can't help you today. I can't
that
help you
I'm
because of what
having
I
to
have
do that.
not replenished. I have
Yes.
not been able to go to the fountain myself and
Yeah.
refuel and replenish my cup.
Uh-huh.
You hear me? So
Yeah.
until that happens, hey, it's Super Saturday. I love you. I'll get
Yeah.
back with you.
That's
Because why?
right.
I'm struggling today just to keep myself moving. So I choose those
Mm-hmm.
things because I realize there's so much that's going to happen. It's a choice,
Yeah.
number one.
Right.
And I know
Right.
that I'm have
Right.
to connect with somebody throughout this day, but I
Yeah.
want that
Yeah.
connection to be positive. Yeah, we may have to,
Yes.
some disciplinary action, but even with that, I'm choosing that as something positive because I'm gonna ask
Right.
them, what could you do different
Differently. Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
will
Yeah. Yeah.
keep me from having this conversation with you?
Yep.
I'm going to
Reflection.
communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it's two way. I can talk to you, but if you're not receptive to what I'm saying, that's not
Mm-hmm.
communication.
No, it's
So
not.
I choose to be positive, to do all of those things, because at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, when everybody else is gone and it's just me, I have to know
Yeah.
that what I've done this day was meaningful.
Was meaningful. Got
So
it. Got it.
yeah, so why I do
Yeah.
it is because I know life is life in every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to start the day and keep my mindset up. I don't care what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I'm still trying to do what I need to do. Go
Mm-hmm.
away from me with all that negativity because I'm
Right.
on a different
Right.
journey.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how, and that's why I do that, Tiffany. Because like I said, I
Yeah.
realize it's a struggle for me, for you,
Mm-hmm.
every day just
Oh
to get
yeah.
up and say I got to do this. But
Just to
why I'm
get up
doing
every
it
day.
because I feel like we are both resources. We both have something to
Mm-hmm.
offer and contribute to other people, and
Yes.
because of
Yes.
that, we got to
Yes.
start it with being positive.
Yes, that is true. And from that question, I'm going to ask you, this is really going to be the last question in this section. I guess this will be
Okay.
kind of a personal question. Um, if you could have a song that was your life story, what would that song be?
Hmm. Wow.
I know that's a
Tiffany, I'm
big
about to go
question.
into my repertoire here.
Quinn was just
Hmm.
always in the
Wow.
music, and that's something I ask every single guest when we get ready to wrap up is, yeah, if you name a song, that would be your
Yes.
life story.
You know, man, my life story. A God of a second chance.
Oh,
I
yeah,
sing that
that's a good
song.
one.
God of a
Yeah,
second chance. But really he's a
yeah,
God of many, many chances. I'm glad I serve
that's
a
true.
God of another
A
chance.
God of
And
another chance.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I messed up,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah,
he
we all,
forgave
hey,
me.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Hey, and I think, when I was even at my lowest, he
Mm-hmm.
lifted me. He
Yeah,
allowed me to go through this, I tell people, I said I had an illness. I
yeah,
was not sick. I had a
right.
condition. That's what was my term. I said, no, I
Condition.
have a condition.
Right,
I'm
right.
not gonna put a label on it and it be negative because that means I have
Mm-hmm.
to own it, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
a God of another chance. That's
A
it.
God of another chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Because
that.
even when I am not worthy, That's my life
Right.
story. You made a way too.
Yeah, that's a good.
When my
Mm-hmm.
back was against the wall,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
he's made a
Those are
way.
two good ones. Yeah.
So I would have to say that opportunity through all the things that we've gone through is the opportunity. How
Yeah.
we choose to live after the situation, after the tragedy, after
Yeah.
the trauma, after the loss. What are we going to do with the opportunity we have left? Because
Yeah.
what it is about
Mm-hmm.
living versus existing, think about all the people who just exist because it's a matter of choice. Number one, they
Yeah.
think they're doing the best they can with what they got, but if they go back, they look, there's so much waste. And they
Yeah.
put themselves in a financial hardship. They find
Mm-hmm.
themselves, surround themselves with negative people, so they're not able to grow. We
Right.
boxed in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
What opportunities are we going to choose with the
Mm-hmm.
time that
Mm-hmm.
we have left until our
Yeah.
assignment is completed? So choose to live, choose to connect positive, choose to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Grief is
Yeah.
real. It's a journey that none of us can take lightly. It's going to touch all of us if it has not already. But
Yeah.
what you have to do is find meaning. As we go into
Meaning.
the new
Meaning.
year, find
Mm-hmm.
meaning, reestablish your identity, do something that you enjoy for yourself.
Yeah.
Every day, meditate and pray.
Mm-hmm.
Press. You hear me? You got to praise
Yeah.
it, number one, and press and pray. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you, your life is going to be worth living and it won't be in vain.
In vain. That's good. That's good. So Miss Georgie, we wrapping up. I'm going so I don't know how many people know that you are a counselor, therapist and all of that. How can people reach out to you? Do you have like social media? Do you have a company name or just let everybody know like how they can reach out to you
Yes.
for these
Look,
counseling
Tim, I'm
too.
sitting there looking like, do I have my card with me? Um, it's really, I don't. And this is the thing.
Okay.
I have not done a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
lot lately. I have this full-time job that I have.
Of
Blessed be the
course.
rock of all
That's right.
salvation.
That's right.
But people still reach out to me on my cell. That's what's on my
Okay.
business card.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I probably will send you a copy. You might need to redo it
That's
or something at
fine.
some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what I can
I'm
do,
saying
I can
because it
just
has my
drop it.
appointment.
Yeah. I can drop it in the
Okay.
description of this
All right. Well, I'll
video,
I'll give.
how they can reach
Okay.
out to you. Do you accept
Okay.
insurance or is it just like self-pay sliding scale? How is that?
This
Because I
is
know a lot of
only
people
private pay.
private pay. Okay. Okay. I
It's
know a lot of
only
people have
private pay,
questions
and I
about
do
that.
a sliding scale.
Okay.
Yes, it is private pay, and it's a sliding scale. You know me, I'm generous. I'm just want to help
Yes.
people, so I'm probably gonna
Yeah.
stand myself. When I have to do it full time, it'll be a different thing. I'll be on
Yeah.
every panel, then going, okay, she's
Uh-huh.
here. She is. She's on this panel because to get on the licensure panel for insurance, it's a
Mhm.
process,
A
and so
process,
most
yeah.
people
Yeah.
have always just said, okay, if I go into full
Mhm.
time, I probably will have no other choice. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm looking at that. I'm trying to now make some life transitions myself, Tiffany. That's
yeah,
funny you would ask me that. I've been
yeah.
looking real seriously about what I want that to look like because typically I've used like libraries, I've gone to other offices, churches. They've been
Mhm.
gracious to allow me to meet in person
Neat.
at those
Yeah.
locations. And
Okay.
of course, if I do it on a full time basis, then I have to have the clientele to back me for the
Right,
overhead
right,
costs. So
right.
that's why I said I typically do meet people where they are, but I'm not gonna. It's individualized. I've done some free counseling because I
Yeah.
felt like it was some youth. I felt like they
Okay.
needed
Yeah.
to see things differently. Cost
Yeah.
wise, as low as $25 to 50. I'm not
Gotcha.
chopping you off. The initial assessment, of course, has to be a little
Yeah.
more. But even with
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
I'm not going to let that be a hindrance for someone who's seeking help.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Well,
will
thank you
keep
for
send you my
sharing
card so
it.
you can get with.
Yeah, and I'll
Hmm.
add it all to this post and to this information. Last but not least, Miss Georgie, I know I was going to ask you any other ventures you would like to promote, but I know you mentioned what did you call it? The grief. Um,
The
you
grief
said you do a
support,
grief. Yeah, the grief support. You want
the
to tell
grief
us a little bit about
support.
that? What it is?
Okay, well, it just kind of happened, and we have not
Okay.
met probably in months. But I this one I was going to reach out to as a follow up with
Oh,
them just to
okay.
see how things are going. It was really composed of a lot of widows. Actually, I
Oh,
had a
okay.
lot of widows. I had some who had lost children. Oh yeah, it was just great, great group, and it was women. I've had one male who reached out, but he never joined us.
Okay.
We just kind of did, some things like one on one, but it
Mm-hmm.
was a group of women, and we met weekly. I can't remember the day now, but we did form our own little just messenger group that we kind of touch base. I kind of text some of them now, just individually, just to follow up to see how they're doing. But it's strange how it happened, but it was really primary widows and individuals, mothers who had lost their children. And it was just a support. It was not a counseling group. It was a support group that went through the curriculum. We had shared with one another, and it was really faith based. I didn't go into it really. I just wanted it to be an outlet so that people could sit, talk, and support. And so we were just walking and trusting God. Women, just trusting God to be able to
Yeah.
be the guide. And so we didn't want it to be just women. So we said walk in trusting God. So anybody, it was open to anybody, but it was primarily women, but it was just a support. We would go through, what can I do to get from this
Yeah.
place to this place? So it would be questions that
Mm-hmm.
I would ask, and then they were able to write and able to see their thoughts. Sometimes I didn't share this with you.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling, of course, we always encourage, but sometimes you have to write that letter to that individual or
Yeah.
to the situation, and then of course you like kind of like burn it, to say, okay, I
Yeah.
got it all out. I don't want anybody else to see it, so I'm gonna burn it.
Uh-huh.
That's more beneficial than most people realize in trying to get through these stages of grief and understanding how to keep moving beyond the hurt. So, like I said, it was just a support group. If anyone is interested, I definitely would start it back. But like I said, as we close in the year, I'm going to be checking on my people because the holidays are always the hardest for everyone. But
Yeah.
I want everybody to look at holiday as celebration. The holidays is
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, we see more people passing away, and it's like, oh, it's not as enjoyable as it used to be. But that's not the purpose. That's not what it's intended to be. It's supposed to be love. And we're supposed to
Yeah.
surround ourselves with individuals who love us, to support us,
Mm-hmm.
because as we're
Mm-hmm.
going through, they're going through as well. And so we just want
Oh
to
yeah.
remember that as we go through the holidays, and we're starting, that people know, because this is going to be aired later, but I want them to look at
Yeah. Yeah.
holidays as
Right. Right.
love. And as we start a new year, it'd be founded on love and purpose. Be kind
Yeah.
to ourselves, be kind to yourself, and look in the mirror every day and say, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be great. I'm going to get through this. Why?
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
God's
Yeah.
grace. That's another song,
Yeah.
Tiffany.
That
Oh,
is. Yes,
man.
that
That's
is.
another one.
Yes, that is. That is. Well, I appreciate that, Miss Georgie.
Oh, so
Keep me
I might have
posted.
to pull them all out today.
I know.
I
Keep
will.
me posted on that because it's crazy. Just this year, I mean, like people I've graduated with, all of us, a lot of us, we have lost our significant others, our guys, Vila, Starisha, this other little lady that
Hmm.
Reverie, Aunt Son's sister sent me, said her fiance passed. And like we're all under 40 years old. And so, just to
Mm-hmm.
know that it's something out there like that type of support group, no, we weren't
Yes.
married to our people, but we had long-term,
Right.
relationships, or even if it was
Term
short-term, it doesn't
relationships.
matter what, your relationship, it don't even matter the time. Your relationship with the
Mm-hmm.
person, is your relationship. And so I think,
Right.
yeah, keep me posted on that.
Okay.
If y'all move forward and doing that again, because I think it would be really beneficial, to several
Yes,
people
I
that I
surely
know
will.
personally that is dealing with this. And we're, like I say, I mean, we're not
Okay.
old, but we're not young either. But we're like in these pivotal
Right.
moments of our lives where it's like, okay, now it's time to have kids, get married, da da. And it's just like, oh, this is a
Mm-hmm.
hard stop for all three of us for sure that I know of. And so
Right.
it's just like,
Okay.
man, but yeah, keep me posted on that for sure, because I would love to share that
I
information with
will.
him and just
Okay.
just to get the information. And it's crazy you mentioned that. Me and Quinn's mother, we did a grief group, surviving the holidays last November, and it was just a 1 day session. So I see how that kind of benefited us. So I can only imagine like having
Okay.
this, type being a part of something like that. So keep me posted on that.
All right.
But Miss Georgie, I
I
really
surely will.
appreciate you for being on today. I appreciate your time, your wisdom. I knew that you would be able to bring what we needed for this new year for sure. And I'm just appreciative of you for sure. And I
Well,
always tell
thank you.
people, you're welcome. A lot of people, they call and reach out, gift cards and things like that. And I always want to give my guests something for coming on. So I will make sure you get your gift card just for being on today, because I don't count it as, I appreciate that because you have a busy schedule through the week. I'm sure your weekends are full with your husband, the kids, and especially them grandkids always been involved in something. So I just
Yes.
appreciate your time today. I really, really, really.
Well, thank you. Like I said, of course, if you need me again, or if we want to, another segue, a couple of months,
Yeah.
another quarter, whatever, let me know. I would love to, if we, you decide you want to do just a platform with your
Mm-hmm.
friends who are we? Say,
Yeah.
who are we
Yeah.
without our
Yeah.
significant others? If you want to do something
Right.
like that, just let me know.
Yeah, I will
And
definitely
like I
do
said,
that.
thank you. It is Super Saturday.
It
I
is.
love you. And if there's anything, we still had yet to go to lunch. I tell you, it's called
I know
life.
we
I
gotta
know.
go.
Hey, I
We
got this
got
whole
to
little
go.
thing.
We've got to go. We've got to do that.
It's gonna
But
happen.
I Yes, yes, but I really appreciate it. And I end every session. Quinn used to say all is well, and you probably remember that about him too. So I'm gonna end our session today with all is well. And I think, Miss Georgia, I may do another poll and get some audience questions, and maybe in the spring of this year we can come back and see, what other questions people may have in regards to grief, and maybe you can answer some
Okay,
do Q&A session next time. I think that's important for the
absolutely.
group. So,
All right.
all right. Well, I hope y'all all have a good week. Thank y'all for watching today. Thank Miss Georgena Porter Wilson for being on as my guest today. And all is well. We will see you guys next 2 weeks. Have a good one. Bye.
All right. Peace and blessings.
We hope that today's episode has encouraged you and helped to identify strategies to navigate your grief and begin the process of moving forward in life. Grief Tribe Healing Vibes. What were some key takeaways from today's episode? Drop a comment below and remember to like, follow, and subscribe.